Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacy and Phil Thompson.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacy.
Yes, he's Steve Lacy, and I'm Phil Thompson, and we are actually doing something a little different today. We are actually doing kind of a video cast as well as our podcast. So we've been promising for a long time now that we're going to do video since we are in the video business, and so we're going to kind of combine this into a podcast as well as a video cast. How do you think it's going so far?
So far, it's like try number 3, right? So we're third time's a charm.
We are actually using We're actually using VidMaster right now. I think we need a third camera.
vMix, right?
No, yeah, you're right. It's vMix.
vMix.
There's an encoder called VidMaster.
No, that would be VidBlaster.
VidBlaster.
Yes.
All right. I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. So we're using vMix right now, and we're switching cameras, and this is why we need a third person to be our director, because I'm trying to do this. So we're doing our little podcast here, and we are a company called JSL Solutions. We do StreamingChurch.tv. We do ChurchAppLive.com, which is obviously mobile apps. And then we also do MyFlock.com, which is church management systems as well as websites and all that good stuff. So Steve is here with me. Steve, what are we going to talk about today?
So today, 5 easy church bulletin announcement strategies.
Got to look in the camera when you talk.
Okay.
Well, yeah. This is going to be interesting, the video part of this thing. All right, so 5... hitting the wrong button here. So we have 5 easy church bulletin announcement strategies. So obviously we're a tech company and we talk a lot about technology, among other things, but probably 99.9% of the churches out there are probably using printed paper programs, wouldn't you say?
I would think so. There may be, I don't know, 99.9, maybe 99.0.
All right. So 1% of the people out there are using digital bulletins or something like that. So we're going to talk about how you can make the most of your announcements here, because maybe replacing paper is not really the best fit right now, but there's other technologies, that might be able to, you could maybe blend the old with the new. So Steve, why don't we just jump right into it, shall we?
So we're going to go over 5 things you can do. So number 1 is to incorporate digital signage display screens around your facility.
All right. And so when we say digital signage display screens, what do we mean by that?
So that would mean, there's several ways to do it. A lot of time, most of the churches today have projectors, and they'll display stuff before, during, and after the service. So one opportunity would be to put your bulletin announcement information up on the projector screen within the sanctuary. Mm-hmm. Other options would be a lot of churches will have a foyer or other areas on the campus where there's large flat screen TVs. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the churches could take advantage of putting a rolling scroll of your announcements and that sort of thing. A lot of churches are set up, I know at the church that I attend, where those are all connected. And so you can, from a production area, have a slide deck that is put together in advance that corresponds with your announcements and that sort of thing, and have it just scroll through what's going on.
Yeah. There's actually some expensive stuff that you can get that actually you can hang them like a sign, and they actually will switch, kind of like those billboards you see going down the interstate. They're completely independent, and they're digital, and they just kind of change before your eyes, and they're not connected to any kind of a video input.
Oh yeah,
never.
You're not talking about. Well, I've heard of the bulletin boards that have the cameras in them, and you walk up and it says, "Oh, young male." Okay, I'm going to change my content to young male-based content. Hell, if you've seen that before, that may be a little much for the churches. That would be really cool.
I think it would be. Yeah. So you can. So I think that's a good tool. My church uses that. Your church uses that. So it'd be a good tool, again, to help communicate things that are going on here. By the way, we look like the odd couple, don't we? I
Uh,
mean, look at
are you
you.
Oscar and I Felix? Is that how it
Well, look at
works?
you. You're the straight, clean-cut guy, and here I am, the hair. I don't have a beard,
Going
though.
through your midlife crisis
I am.
with your
Yeah,
long
so
hair.
I am, like I used to. See, a
Your
lot of
younger
people are like,
days.
do you remember when I used to have really, really long hair?
Oh yeah, I
bet you
remember.
that. That
That's
was a
the first
long
time I met you.
Yeah, that was well over, it's probably like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So digital signage, display screens, flat screen TVs, different things, projecting.
Yeah.
You can put together a video and run it, on
Yeah,
a video.
a short video that they may loop. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you want to
loops.
do this not only, Sunday morning, but also during the week, so that the announcements are just consistently scrolling as youth group meets, as
Right.
Bible studies meet, whatever goes on in the church. You've got these things rolling.
Yeah. So good deal. All right. So, and the other thing is pulpit. Let me switch.
So that was number one.
That was number one. So the other one is pulpit announcements, and again, one of the things we've talked about over and over again is not to overshare, I guess would be the term to use, and go on and on and on and on with certain announcements. The idea is to pick maybe 3 or 4 announcements, and you can share those from the platform. You get what I'm saying?
Right. And this not necessarily the pastor, is typically not the pastor, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, you want to avoid having a list of announcements that are going to, not affect everybody. So they're, let's talk about the women's ministry. Let's talk about Mommy's Day Out. Let's talk about the men's motorcycle club. Whatever it may be, you want to kind of limit your announcements to those that are going to apply to the broadest swath in your congregation, and say, see the screens in the foyer for the rest of the announcements.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea is you're going to make maybe 3 or maybe 4 at the most important announcements, and they really should apply pretty much to the whole church, not a segment. There's obviously some exceptions. So digital signage, displays, some announcements from the platform. What's the third one?
So number 3, moving on, would be weekly email communications.
All right. And you can do that today with lots of creative tools out there. There's email. You could even use something like MailChimp, which is actually what we use with our company. It syncs really well with myflock.com and your church database. And so the advantage of using something like MailChimp is that it's got some pretty nice graphics. It's got a nice layout. What else does it have, Steve? It's got stats too, right?
It's got good stats on
analytics
on things. Yes. Or you could use the tools that are built into our system as well. There is a newsletter email blast tool, not quite as fancy as the MailChimp, and not quite as extensive as the stats, but we do sync with MailChimp.
I'm switching cameras backwards here while we're trying to do this podcast. That would be under the myflock.com tool.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yes. So we got that going on there with that. So email. My advice would be that you don't do a lot of email during the week. Maybe just send one out.
Yeah, one set of info a week.
Right.
And one of the things you point out is email is still the primary communication vehicle for the largest number of people.
That's true.
There are, those that I don't do email anymore. I'm all on social network, but you're going to hit the largest segment is going to be used to getting your emails.
I think that's a good point. I think email still is the way that most people communicate. And the thing about your emails too is you can always keep your emails short. You can do a little email newsletter, and you could actually put links in your email. So when you have other, like maybe more detailed information, maybe it's on one of the pages of your church website, something like that, you could always have links in your email.
Yeah, and that's something you want to do, I think, with all these avenues, is kind of talk about the top level things and have the opportunity for people to dig into more detail through a link or visiting a website or talking with somebody or whatever it may be.
I would also encourage, today with the different emails tools out there, we just mentioned a couple of them. Pictures and graphics are really nice to have in your emails, and so it's easy to do that today. And so if you're going to send out an e-blast or an e-newsletter, kind of a deal that we're talking about here when it comes to ways to a strategy to help communicate with your church, make sure you use some graphics. And there's different stuff out there you can buy, you can purchase. Some of it's free, as well as pictures are always good. And even if you're fortunate enough to have some pictures of some of the activities you've got going on that are connected to your church, you take pictures of meetings and different things going on. Putting those kinds of things in your e-blast, your newsletter, makes a big difference.
Yeah. Another key is how you create the subject for that newsletter blast.
That's a good point.
And there are some pros out there. I know I get, one of the things you're going to run into now that a large majority of people are using Gmail, and Gmail this year, right, went and segmented their email into 3 major buckets, and you can modify that as you want it. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
It's been last year, I think.
It was last year.
But yeah, there's like 3 or 4, isn't there?
Yeah, there's
like 4, I think.
I guess it depends on what you want. Anyway, they send your promotions stuff to your promotions folder or your promotions tab. And I know my wife just throws everything away that comes in her, or she didn't throw it away. She just never looks at it. So one of the things, though, that I found is if you've got a good subject that's going to draw people in, then that's going to increase your open rate dramatically. And there's some organizations out there that do just a great job because they always get me hooked. I'm like, what do they mean by that subject? I need to dig and find out what the top 5 church bulletin announcement strategies are. So, what's the key mistake you always make when you're saving for retirement or whatever it may be?
Yeah. That's a good point. The subject line really does matter to help more people to open those things. And your wife and my wife should get together. Maybe your wife could help my wife. She has like 958 unanswered or unopened emails, and your wife just deletes them. Is that what happens?
No, she just everything in the promotions tab is just not to be read.
Oh,
so they just stay there.
So she still has them.
They're still there. There's probably thousands of them.
Okay, well then never mind. That won't work. All right. So digital signage to help communicate things in your church, pulpit announcements or platform announcements. Weekly email communication we just touched on. And the next one is, of course, your church website. Church website may not be the actual destination that members visit for announcements, but it's really important to be consistent, to update your church website along with, printing your bulletin, your program, screen announcements, and email communications. You can almost always tell when somebody has neglected their website, right?
Yeah. It's because you go there, they've got announcements there, but it's for the Christmas pageant, and it's July. So, yes.
It's and so newer people that might be looking for a church, they're going to see that if your stuff on your website is kind of out of date, stale, as I like to call it. And so that's kind of a turnoff. And as we've talked about here over and over again, when people are looking for a church, they will look at your website first. And from there, they will make some decisions. They're going to come visit, And so
we do recommend that you put your announcements there, but just keep them current.
Yeah. And that's what we do too. We have a place for announcements on my church's website, but they have to be current if they're not. So definitely, there are some things you definitely have to do here. So, all right. So moving along here, I'll let you introduce. Well, that was number 4, right?
So number 5.
Yeah, number 5 is
the number 5 of 5 is a church app.
Okay. We know nothing about apps, do we?
No, we know nothing about apps.
I'm being facetious. We actually have an app called Church App Live. So tell us a little bit about why apps are important.
Well, apps are becoming the new norm for, the app. The App Store has I don't know how many billion apps in it now, and everyone's, I don't know what the numbers are for the smartphone adoption. Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
80-90%, I would think.
It's a large.
It's a large segment. Yeah. And so smartphones are out there. People have their apps. You might as well take advantage of that avenue. And you can have your own app for your church that includes your announcements and your media, your sermon notes, and things like that. So it's another key way to keep people connected and in place. And one of the things that's nice that you want to try to take advantage of is if you can update, say, your announcements in one area, and it gets pushed to your website, and it's driving the slides in the sanctuary, and it's also going to your app without you having to go to all these different destinations separately. That's going to be advantageous.
Yeah, it definitely would make life a lot easier. I know that I'm sure there's people listening to me going, "Oh, this is more work. This is more work." And yeah, you're right. If you can drive it to, if you can use a source to drive it to those multiple sources. But let me just say this: I think the extra effort and time in communication, these things we talked about, and there's actually a couple more we can bring up too. But I think it's worth it because, in my opinion, communication is one of the weaknesses that we all struggle with, not only in life, in our own personal lives, sometimes either communication with our family, our spouses, the workplace, whatever, but even I think it translates or transfers over to the local church. I think that most churches are not good at communicating or using tools to communicate effectively.
I agree with that. And I think you fall into the trap of, well, I'm part of the staff and everybody's talking about it, so everybody knows about the potluck on Sunday. Yeah. And I think you want to, if you're going to make a mistake, would be to over communicate some of those information. So one of the things we missed a shameless plug, right? So the ability to enter in one place and push it out to multiple places is, the Church App Live and the MyFlock. You update the newsletter there, it's going to go to both places, or your announcements. So anyway,
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, we can plug our products. It's okay. We can certainly do that. We've certainly got a lot of them. So getting back to the whole communication thing here, I think it's really important. And I was, as you were talking here, I used to work with your church. I've got my cameras mixed up here, so I got the camera on you. Now it's on me. I can remember at the movies, something that has been multiple churches have been doing for years at the movies, and what a lot of churches do is they take movie clips from movies out there, and they'll take clips and they'll intermix teaching and scripture and getting points from certain clips. And Life Church does it. There's been other churches actually started doing it before Life Church. But one of the things, when you talk about communication, one of the things we used to call it at your church, I'm no longer there, but we used to call it ATM is what we called it. We would promote it as ATM.
At the movies?
Yeah. The problem with ATM is, if you're an outsider, what does ATM mean to you?
It means we are going to take your money, huh?
Well, it's just it's initials that nobody really knows. I mean, if I don't know if I'm not an insider to a church, and we're using ATM, I don't know if that means what that means. At the movies is what we're talking about, but it doesn't necessarily translate to a new person.
A short, quick diversion here. My cousins went to Texas A&M, and they bought their grandfather, who was just starting to get into Alzheimer's era, which is kind of sad. Yeah. They bought him a Texas A&M shirt, so it said across the front, ATM. And he did not know that was the Texas A&M shirt. He thought that Grandpa was the ATM for them.
I could see that. He thought, well, so what brings up the point here is when we're talking about communication and using these strategies, that we just covered here, make sure that you use whatever you're communicating, people that may not be familiar with your church.
So no inside lingo?
Exactly. Try to keep the inside lingo out, because it really not only does it alienate people, but it's a miscommunication, and so you're not effectively communicating when you use terms and stuff that newer people might not fully understand.
And you're supposed to write at the 5th grade level too, right?
That's what I understand. Yeah. 5th grade level. Is what I've been told. I think that when it comes to all this stuff that we're talking about today, it's pretty much keep it short and sweet. and maybe even have another set of eyes.
Yeah.
Look
Short,
at whatever it is
sweet
you're
pictures,
doing.
browsable. Yep.
Yeah. Links to different things wherever they're at, so that people can get more information. And always put a way where people can contact you on certain topics. So, if you're doing Habitat for Humanity, it's going to be Saturday, September 26th. Well, what if somebody wants more information on that? So you want to put an email or someplace, a link or something where people can get more information on that topic. And that would go for every topic that you have in your newsletter or whatever it is you're doing. You want to make a place where either phone number, email address, website, somewhere where people can go to contact for more information.
Right. So we have gone way above and beyond, right? These are more than 5 bulletin announcement strategies, but these are some of these others were just kind of add-ons to our core 5.
I as somebody that's an administrator of a church, I work part-time for a church and do some administrative and communications. That's one of my pet peeves, Not that I do it well. I don't do it that great, but I'm striving to try to do it the best I can. One of the things, we've got a few more minutes here. When we talked about different signage and those kind of things up to communicate, something that we've covered here before, but it's been a while, is, and your church does it all the time. What happens when you walk into you can answer this, Steve. What happens when you walk into the men's bathroom? What do you see?
So when you step up to the urinal, there is
to the plate.
Signage right in front of the urinal, right at face level.
Yeah.
They've got a flyer that has to do with something going on in the church. It's a novel way. Yeah. You've seen it in restaurants and bars do the same kind of thing. But it's
you go to bars? I don't go to bars. You go to bars?
Never been into a bar.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, really, it's a creative thing though. Is to have. It's right there in the urinals. They have in a plastic casing where they can slip it in and out, slip the deal in and out, whatever the flyer.
Typically pertains to men.
Yeah. It's usually specifically men, and there are men's group. But I've never been in the women's restroom at your church.
Maybe they have some.
But
I don't think on the back of the bathroom door.
Well, they don't. I'm sure the women don't have urinals.
No, but they do have the doors.
They do have their doors, and their
stalls.
We'll
have to go check that out.
Yeah, well, yeah. You can go check it out. Tell me more about it later. All right. So I'm having fun switching cameras here. I don't know if people are actually ever going to see this, because this is bad video work here, but we might put it up just for kicks. But they're going to hear the audio. So we're basically done here. You can hear us on if you go to iTunes and look for Church Solutions Podcast. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes, and you can give us feedback and reviews on all our podcasts. We got a number of them. Where else can people reach us, Steve?
iTunes, YouTube. Did we talk about that? NewMediaMinistries.tv.
Yeah.
And
I think there's even a list on StreamingChurch.tv. I think under resources. I think you might be able to find some of our video. We've done video years ago, and we have these audio podcasts. So we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. If we can help you, if anything, we do StreamingChurch.tv, streaming video. We got some things coming up here at the end of the year. I think you're going to be excited about it if you're interested in streaming video. And then, of course, we do churchapplive.com, which is our mobile app. Lots of great features on that app. And then there's myflock.com, which is kind of the flagship, so to speak, I guess, the deal. And that's church management tools and website templates and all that. So, all right, guess we're done here.
I guess we're done.
All right, folks. Well, Steve, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, as I just said, always put out a good place for people to contact you. You can contact us by sending us an email, support@StreamingChurch.tv, and we'd love to hear from you. So for Steve and myself, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening and watching if you happen to see this video part, and we will catch you again next time on another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast videocast. Have a great day.